but that's the answer, just
Yeah.
you have to go deep with it.
Wow. Yeah. And that segment, I felt like you went pretty deep. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Good.
So
I was probably preaching by the end because I get I get really excited about A Course in Miracles. Actually I've found myself growing into um kind of being a bit of a fiery preacher kind of person when of course I come by that naturally being raised in Alabama and all that stuff. And when I was young, I did the whole accept Jesus as my savior thing and moved into a Christian commune called the Jesus Manor. This was the 70s, so we were long haired, hippie Jesus freaks. But, but I've always been really fascinated with spirituality, what it means, and who we authentically are. Because I guess from a really young age, I realized, there's this world that we're living in, but there's a world beyond this that is accessible. But one has to go within to find that, you know. But I did understand this in a way from when I was really young, and I really liked going to church, but not for the same reasons that other people did. Like I never really, even though I it was kind of like peer pressure to accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior. And so I did, because it was peer pressure. But I always knew there was something deeper. But when I was raised in Alabama, I didn't have access to other ways of thinking about spirituality. And I didn't. So when I moved to New York City, I began to really explore all of that. So many different things, and then when Glenn and I got together, his dad was a Baptist preacher. So
Oh, wow.
yeah.
You made it a family, I guess.
So that was one thing that we really bonded over. And of course, Glenn was very eccentric, and I still have the books. He always said, I've read every spiritual book there is. And I'm like, yes, you did. He was really super intelligent, like,
Yeah.
Mensa intelligent, like they recruited him in high school and stuff. So he had that wide range of spiritual knowledge, but also a big, huge heart, which is very important because when it's just all in the intellect, it's not really useful, I find.
Right. Right.
So there has to be a heart connection to it. So that's kind of where I am with the Course in Miracles. I think it's really my favorite spiritual book. Um, and I love the mystery of it. I love like digging into all of those um sticky places.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
So
So for folks who haven't checked it out, please check it out. Because it was really good. And I think, like you said, you post every Sunday. So
yeah, yeah, yeah,
um
yeah, yeah. There's a new one every week unless I'm out of town or something like that. Yeah. So
so Yolanda, you've been on my show before, and I usually start off with like, what are you curious about these days? What's piquing your curiosity?
well, actually what I've lately been thinking about a lot and contemplating is queer spirituality, sexuality, how it intertwines, and what. So in my particular path, and Glenn's too, which was unusual for maybe not in our community, but maybe we don't talk about it as much, and so I don't know. But in my path and in Glenn's path, our spiritual part of that path really involved our sexual desires and feelings, and of course that's a path of tantra. That's a tantric path. And so we just sort of combined it all. So the thing is, when I say interfaith non-dual, what I'm talking about is there's wisdom in every path, you know, whether you regard yourself as on a spiritual path or not. your path will all go, will all, wind up going in the same direction, and I don't believe in, heaven and hell and all that stuff. I believe that we go back into that which birthed us, that sacred mystery, which, we call God. However, to me, it's an energy field, and so from my perspective, being interfaith non-dual, I see all of us on the same journey. You're just experiencing it in a different way than I am. So, I'm going to tell you a funny story. I just think it's funny. And so the circumstances around me accepting Jesus as my savior was very funny. So, there was this music minister that this is the 70s now, so I'm old. But anyway, he used to hang out in the parking lot in our high school after school let out. Now, when I look back on that, I think that's kind of unusual. I don't know if that would be a thing that would be okay to do these days. But anyway, yeah, I don't think so.
Not okay.
But what he would do, he would sit out in the parking lot and lean against his car and play guitars, right? Play his guitar and sing. And of course, I fell in love. I was just like, and he was so gorgeous, long hair and blah, 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 all that. And anyway. So right there, you kind of see, I'm going to say a little bit more of this, but right there, you see kind of the beginning of how, so I'm attracted to this guy in a couple of different ways. I'm physically attracted, so there's a sexual attraction, but yet what kept me really wanting to be around him was his spirituality. Now, he wasn't really what we would think of today as a conservative or right wing, or he was just who he was, and he loved Jesus. Jesus was his guru, that kind of thing. And it was just very simple for him. And he would just play the guitar and sing and blah, blah. And I literally fell in love with this guy. So anyway, a bunch of us went on a ski trip together. It was a sanctioned ski trip. It wasn't just, but, of course I was being raised as a boy at the time and, whatever. So of course I'm sleeping in the boys' cabin and all this kind of thing. Well, so he gets up to go to the bathroom one night, and I'm laying there in this bunk kind of next to the bathroom door, and he comes out of the bathroom, and it just so happened that the light was on, so I woke up, and he was standing there half naked, really. I mean, he's just sleeping, but he's in his shorts, and he saw me looking up at him, and of course my heart was going, but he saw me like awake and looking up at him, and he reached out his arms and he said, "Don't you think it's time you come to the Lord?" And I was like, "Yes, Lord, yes." I fell down on my knees, girl, and I prayed. And it was hilarious because it actually was